Hi guys, welcome back to the Little Craft House. Today we're going to make a polymer clay slab which has been inspired by a dress that I saw on Facebook Marketplace. I didn't buy the dress, wasn't my size, I didn't even screenshot it. I've got the idea embedded in here and yeah, I thought we would recreate it with polymer clay today, and yeah, that way I can have a pair of earrings instead. Okay, so to start with, I am going to cut off a nice big chunk of this Primo Galaxy glitter here. This is going to be the base today. I like it because it's a nice navy blue, but it has that little bit of sparkle to it. Next up, I'm just going to cut out a whole bunch of flowers. Most of these colours that I've got here have been either from a pack. That's almost the last of my French pink, and some of the colours might be custom made, but I'm not 100% sure. I just had them over in my pile to the side, so I never quite remember what I've taken out of a pack and what has been custom made. But yeah, I think this one here would be ivory. Doing the circles, just a bunch of those little circles, just using my stud cutter for that. And I'll just mention that the base is rolled just a little bit less than a 3mm thickness, and the flowers and circles here, I've rolled them quite thin. And so I'm just going to loosely lay the flowers onto the base. I'm not going to press them down just yet. That just gives me the ability to move them around if I need to, and yeah, change the positioning. I don't want too many colours, obviously two colours the same, to be next to each other. So just going to move and shuffle them around a little bit until I'm happy with their positioning. Alright, so I did jump the gun a little bit here. I thought about using the sandpaper texture to give it a bit more of a vintage style look. So I went straight ahead and jumped in with sandpaper. What I would normally have done is used a bit of baking paper first and just rubbed them to secure them into position, but I just went with the sandpaper anyway, but that's okay. We're just going to redo it again afterwards once we add the other elements. But yeah, the sandpaper gives a beautiful texture if you haven't used it before. Pick one that's got a nice gritty texture to it, and it puts a beautiful imprint in. And now I'm just going to pop those centers on, and I'm just going to give them a little push down just to make sure that they are well secured. And so I've also cut myself a bunch of little green hearts down here. So just little tiny green hearts, and what I'm going to do is cut them in half, and these are going to form some little leaves. So they don't really need much adjusting. You can sort of reshape them, make them a little bit more rounded off with your hands if you like, but I'm just going to pop them straight on like that. In a moment when we squish them down, they're going to sort of take a bit of a new shape anyway. So yeah, I'm happy to just pop them on like they are. And so I did grab for the sandpaper again, but decided that I should actually use the roller first instead. So I'm just going to give them a little roll. You can see it's just squishing down those centers and the leaves, sorry. And then I'm just going to do another roll over with that sandpaper, and that is just going to redo anything that I've disturbed, pop that pattern down on top of the centers and the leaves as well. I'm just going to use my flexi blade to release it from the tile, and can you see the texture and the sparkle there? Okay, so next up we are going to add some detail with the Posca paint pens. So if you've followed me for a while, you know that I am a little bit lazy when it comes to adding the paint pen. So when you're using the Posca paint pens, the paint does require a bake to make it permanent. So I'm lazy. I'm using it whilst the clay is raw. That means that when I cut my pieces and bake them to cure the clay, it's also going to bake the paint at the same time. Your other option would be to cut out the clay without the paint on it, bake it, draw on it with your markers and then rebake to make them permanent. Now, if I was going to do details that were more drawing, more lines, I would definitely do it afterwards. But because I'm just popping dots on, it doesn't need to be done afterwards. I can do this before. It is putting slight indent into the clay, but as we've already got it textured, it doesn't matter a whole bunch. I kind of like the effect. It's just adding that little bit extra. And I'm just going to add these little white dots here as well. I just feel like it needed some contrast, something to just kind of just pop a little bit. I can't remember on the original dress where I'm getting the inspiration from. I can't remember if it had something like this on it. It was more the flowers with the dots in the center. So yeah, I'm just going to add this as well. And I am just going to very gently put a little stripe on each of these leaves. And I am being very careful not to put too much pressure on so that it doesn't cause drag onto the clay. And time to cut out my pieces. Now, you guys know that this is always a massive struggle for me. I can never quite work out where to cut out. I want to get the most out of it. I want all of my piece to be seen. So I'm just going to try and I'm just going to use the circle cutters today and try my best to get a bit of each colour, a bit of the details into each bit that I cut out. And of course I want to use up every little bit that I can, so I'm just squeezing these smaller circles into that part there as well. And it is time to bake, so time to pop it in my little oven. Okay, so they are now all baked up and I did give them a quick little sand. I forgot to film that part. But yeah, just a little sand around the edges just to neaten them off. Make sure there's no little sharp bits or anything. I've also drilled holes into each of the pieces. I prefer to drill my holes after baking rather than popping them in before baking. As you can see, I did kind of change around my idea of how I was going to assemble these. So I waited until after they were cooked, worked out how I was going to assemble them, then drilled the holes. And so now I'm just going to start assembling them. I'm just going to use some hooks for these ones, and I had some tassels in my stash, and the colours seem to match quite well. So I thought I'll use those for these smaller ones. And then with my larger pieces that I've got at the bottom of the screen there, I had some little wooden connectors that I'm going to use. And I also managed to cut out a few little stud pieces as well so that they could be the stud toppers of the other two round ones. You know what I mean? You can see them there on the screen. So yeah, just going to assemble these up now and then they will be done. And there we go, they are all assembled. I'm thinking, I'm not sure which pair I'm going to keep for myself yet. I'm yet to decide that, so I've popped them all on cards anyway just to show you. But yes, one pair will definitely be going into my little earring stash that I have here. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed watching me just make this slab, enjoyed the process, and yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time. Bye.